Get a motion that the closed meeting be closed and the board certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempt from the open meeting to which this certification applies. And two, only such business matters as we identified in the motion concerning the closed meeting were heard, discussed, considered.
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Honeycutt, do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes.
Mrs. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Sturtevant?
Yes. At this time, we're going to stand for a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Nichols, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Greetings for their May board meeting tonight to all the members of the school board. We have a lot of awards and a lot of people to be awarded for great jobs this year, and so we want to get started with that. We will begin with Dr. Scales giving us information on the high school, Bluestone High School robotics team.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and the school board members, and Mr. Nichols. Tonight, we're going to start off with the Bluestone Robotics team, and it's Team Scrappy. And before we get started, I'm going to start with a video that they produced to go over their wonderful season that they had, because they had an outstanding year. Then I'll bring the team up at this time. You may start the video.
Can we get them to turn the light out, please?
Great shot of landing cargo in the rocket, but they just missed the mark. 1908 is on the blue platform.
As you can see, we have some great kids and a great organization through Bluestone High School. So at this time, I have the team members from Team 14-13, Team Scrappy, to come over on this side by the screen. And Ms. Sharon Harris, can you come up at this time? Come on up, team. Give my hand. While this large group is coming up, the team is led by Ms. Sharon Harris, who is the designated faculty member. And the team this year is one of out of 123 teams in Maryland, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. They competed in 3 competitions during the regular season. And they also did a preseason meet this year called the Rumble in the Roads in in November, where they actually earned the Shipbuilders Award, which is a highly acclaimed award for strategy, design, construction of their robot. And again, the robot is in front of you, and I'll let them talk about it more, so I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Harris.
Originally, when we were doing robotics in the past, it has been I'm sorry. Originally, the robotics team was a 3-month season, and we went to a full-year season this year, so we worked all year long. We did a preseason in October, and then we've gone to 3 events in March. We've done really well. We went all the way to district in Fairfax, which played us against 3 areas, which was Virginia, Maryland, and D.C. We would have made it to World, but our alliance, because we always play 3 teams against 3, our alliance members at the district were not quite as capable as we were, and while we scored well and had very good statistics, we didn't do that well. Next year, we plan on working on our programming skills, our CAD design, and our business and marketing skills. All right, I'm going to let the boys put on a demonstration right now of the robot. This year's game was called Destination Deep Space. The ball is considered cargo, and they had to deliver the cargo, but before they could deliver the cargo, they had to put a hatch panel on, which is this round piece right here. So you'll see them how they did that, and they got points.
And while we're waiting for them to set up, I'll go ahead and give the names of all the team members. We have Tristan Adams, Ethan Arnold, Kylie Brown, Braden Burke, Austin Burns, Brandon Campbell, Alex Sorber, Dan Sorber, Frank Sorber, Michael Davies, Matthew Fitz, Tyler Fitz, Lane Jones, Gabriel Leha, Jared Leha, Davon Mosley, Ethan Nipper, Thomas Overton, Jerry Simon, Dale Sturtevant, and Xavier Sturtevant. And the advisors this year were Tracy Ellis, Donna Mosley, Dick Field, Ramona Field, Leonard Passmore, Marsh Passmore, and David Harris. So again, this is includes everybody for the team of this year. So go ahead and start your demonstration. Good job, thank you. And one of the things about robotics is that it brings a lot of parts as far as the educational curriculum beyond classroom because of the, if you look inside, if you come get a close-up look at all the components, the welding, the hands-on pieces, being able to read the diagrams, the construction, there's a lot of collaboration. The 5 Cs are fully incorporated within our robotics team, and they've been doing this for years. So again, I want to commend our students. And again, you got to understand these tasks and things change every year. So the robot this year will be different than the one last year and from the 1 year previous. So at this time, if I can get everybody to move to the front and so you can get your pictures so that the photographers can take your pictures. And parents, if you'd like to take your photos, you can go and do so at this time, and then we'll have y'all get seated. Thank you.
While they're working that out, I'd like to just make a comment that I heard over and over again throughout the competition season, that this team has really picked up, and the students have driven the performance of this team as opposed to so many of the teachers or the volunteers. They've done a great job melding together, and we're very proud of that because that's one of the 5 C's that we need to continue to work with is cooperation.
One thing I'd like to say too is that when you take a group of kids off like this, you wonder where they're going to be at all times. When they go with Scrappy, everybody has their own job to do, and they just work perfectly together.
Good job. Mr. Chairman, at this time, I'm going to go ahead and move on to my next recognition, which is for the Parkview High School forensics team. If I could have Bryce Watson, Grace Montgomery, Alexis Upton, Hannah McCoy, and Donovan Polite to come up along with Ms. Nash and Ms. Cottingham at this time from Parkview High School. We're recognizing this wonderful team, and I'm going to turn it over to the coach in just a minute for their accomplishments at the Virginia High School League State Forensics Competition.
Hello. Wait, just kidding. Is that better? Yeah. For those of you who do not know what forensics is, it is competitive speaking and acting. These students have quite a task at hand. Our season is quite long, starting almost August to September, and they each are in various independent and group events. We had about 15 students on the team, 12 made it to super regional, and 5 made it to the state level, which is quite great. So we're going to give them a round of applause. I would like to, Lisa Cott and I are both coaches of this wonderful team, and we would like to also recognize Bryce Watson, 3rd in the state for humorous interpretation, and especially Grace Montgomery, 3rd in the state for storytelling. Thank you very much.
You can come forward so you can go and get your pictures in a better venue. And if any family members would like to take a picture, they can come up at this time. Certificates.
She should just sort of get right in front of him. She'd fit right in.
Congratulations. Mr. Chairman, at this time, I'm going to transition to my next recognition. I keep wanting to say Piedmont. Parkview High School had a young man that did a very heroic deed and actually saved the life of one of his classmates at the school. So at this time, I'd like to have Ms. Walton and your young man, James White, to come forward at this time for a special recognition.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Holly Walton, and I am a nurse. Close. Okay. I'm a nurse/teacher at Parkview High School. I just want to share with you guys that we have somebody special standing behind me. A few weeks ago, I, along with many others at Parkview High School, witnessed a very caring act of kindness that we all feel is in need of sharing. In today's society, these acts of kindness are very few and far between. Recently, in between first and second block, in the Votech building at Parkview High School, Ms. Hamby and I were called to an emergency situation at the end of our hall, as we were the closest nurses to the scene of this emergency. When we arrived to this location of the emergency, there were many people present, staff and students. As we began to care for the person with the emergency, it occurred to us that we, Ms. Hamby and I, were not alone in caring for this individual. Parkview staff members were assisting to clear the scene, but we had one person in particular that we requested to remain to help. This student played a key role in caring for this patient. As Ms. Hamby and I were talking to the patient, assessing the situation, taking vital signs, requesting pertinent equipment and information that was needed, calling for the required assistance, realizing that we had a true life or death situation staring deep at us. This very special person, James White, was there the entire time, assisting in a very important manner. James remained at the patient's head, reminding the patient of self-worth, strong faith, God's glory, and he instructed our patient to stay focused, stay calm, breathe, and do what the nurses say to do. During this very, very intense situation, James was alert and highly aware of the seriousness of the emergency. He continued to stay calm and encouraging to not only the patient, but also everyone taking part in this situation. James never lost his composure, calmness, or focus. James's act of kindness did not end when the patient left Parkview High School to receive more advanced health care. James followed up with this patient at the hospital. After the emergency situation was handled, I hugged James and thanked him, telling him what an outstanding job he did. He looked at me very calmly and said, "I only did what I know I'm supposed to do." Since that incident, I have witnessed James in one other similar situation, and again, his reaction was the exact same: composed, calm, focused, and faithful. And here he is, doing the exact same thing right now. This is who James White is, an outstanding person. He will not boast or brag or speak on those days in public, as he is also a healthcare provider on the rescue squad and understands the importance of confidentiality. And he's probably a little perplexed as to why he is even present here at the school board tonight for recognition. Well, James, on behalf of Parkview High School, Ms. Hamby and I would like to recognize you and formally thank you, James White, for your dedication to your school, your teachers, your administrators, your friends, your family, community, rescue squad, and most importantly, God. You are one in a million, and I genuinely appreciate every single thing you did that day and every day. I believe your dedication, morals, values, and faith will continue to carry you as far as you want to go in life. Again, from the bottom of the heart, I thank you.
Right there is fine.
I'll almost make you cry.
Thank y'all very much. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Thank y'all very much. A special young man, very special young man. Mr. Chair, my last recognition for right now will be in recognition of our Mecklenburg County Youth Bassmasters. And the primary recognition will be for our students that were part of two of the teams, which is Brandon Cook, Trevor Wallace, Jaden, and Logan Brewer. At this time, I'm going to bring forth teams as well as their coaches to be recognized.
Good evening. The Mecklenburg County Bassmasters Fishing Club that qualified and participated in the Virginia Bassmaster Youth Fishing State Tournament. This is the first year for the club in our school system. A dream of Coach Aleko Mangum, the dream came true last year when the school board approved the concept of a fishing team. The team was organized during the summer of 2018 and became part of the Bass Nation of Virginia Youth Bassmasters. The teams were able to fish in 3 tournaments this past year. Not only do the club members fish in state tournaments, each member is required to complete 8 hours a year in conservation and compete in local tournaments that are club sponsored. The first team that we'd like to recognize is a team of Brandon Cook and Trevor Wallace, both students at Bluestone Middle School. Brandon first started fishing when he was 4. He moved from his small boat to a bass fishing boat where he fishes now. If Brandon isn't fishing, he is playing baseball and deer hunting. His parents are Pam Weston and Barry Cook. Brandon will be a sophomore at Bluestone High School in the fall and is an honor roll student. Brandon plans on being a game warden. After graduation, he wants to attend SVCC and transfer to Ferrum College. Trevor is currently a 6th grader at Bluestone Middle School. He is a member of the FFA. Trevor, oh, you head up so you can see, man. Trevor's in my class also. Trevor has been fishing since he was 4 years old in a pond. Trevor started bass fishing 5 years ago in the lake and goes every chance he can get. Trevor enjoys fishing, hunting, baseball, and riding his 4-wheeler. Trevor's parents are Joanna and Nathan Fitz. Brandon and Trevor placed 8th in the state competition for the youth division, which is the middle school. The second team that we'd like to recognize is a team of fishing brothers, Jaden and Logan Brewer. Jaden started fishing at his grandparents' lake house when he was just old enough to walk. Jaden and his brother Logan first fished from a John boat and then moved up to the bass boat. In Jaden's spare time, he likes to fish in the summer and hunt in the winter. Jaden is a 9th grader at Parkview High School. When Jaden graduates, he plans to go to college and fish on a college fishing team while working on a lineman degree. Logan is an 8th grader at Parkview Middle School. Logan is interested, of course, in fishing, but he likes to hunt and he also enjoys fishing. His love of fishing started when he would go. So we'd like to congratulate them, but I take a moment here. I got one more young man that we'd like to recognize. Austin.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Superintendent Nichols, other school board members. Want to take this time, like he said earlier, they're required to do 8 hours of community service. This young man has done over 50 hours of community service, helping tournaments from Lake Gaston here to Occoneechee. He works, he runs fish back for people. Anything you ask of this young man, he'll do it. Just a good person in general, and that's what it's about more than anything. Then the winning and losing, that's fine, but being a good person at this age, kids donating their time that much, you don't see it as often, so I wanted to recognize him tonight. And one other thing, I'd also like to congratulate the other Mecklenburg High School English team. They have a team, the other fishing group in the county that made it to nationals. So I just wanted to take time to congratulate them too, because we might not wear the same color shirts, but they're all kids at the end of the day, so.
I was going to bring that up. We do have another team that we want to recognize. We'll be bringing them
We'll
into the
recognize them
June
after
meeting,
the nationals.
particularly as they'll be heading to nationals. So this is one of the 2 teams that we wanted to bring tonight, the younger of the 2 teams that we'll wanted to bring to the podium tonight.
All right, y'all can go and get your pictures with the teams. And family members, if you'd like to take pictures, you can come forward. Congratulations. And again, we'll make sure to recognize the other team once they finish their national competition in Kentucky. Thank you.
All right, we have more recognitions that come from CTE. I'm going to ask Mr. Cyphers if he'll come up for those.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Nichols, school board members. Tonight, I would like to do 2 sets of recognitions for our students. The first one we would like to recognize are those students at both Bluestone High School and Parkview High School that received a score of a platinum on their National Career Readiness Certificate. This is our first group of students to receive a platinum on the National Career Readiness Certificate, and we are very proud of those students. In the 2018 academic year nationwide, over 79,000 11th and 12th graders were tested. And out of those 79,000, only 13% earned a platinum score or higher. So we're very proud of these students. Again, this is our first year that we were able to do this with the National Career Readiness Certificate, and we're very excited. So if we invite all students to come. So when I call your name, if you're here, if you'll just come up, please. Gabrielle Boswell. Molly Lawson, Kellyanne Tyner, Madeline Clary, Presley Dawson, Jarrett Hamby, Bianca Minter, Joel Nielsen, Janet Palmer, Ethan Searles, Malachi Walker, and Brandon Ray. So we will make sure to get these back to the principals. Again, we're very proud of these students for their earning the platinum level on the CRC.
And Mr. Cyphers, are you at a position to mention what happens with Mecklenburg Economic Development now?
Yes, sir. We are in the process, Mr. Nichols and myself, as well as some other folks in the community, to actually light up Mecklenburg County to become a certified work-ready community. And the high school piece was the last part that we were waiting on, so we'll have an official launch. June the 5th is what is scheduled right now. Y'all should be receiving invitations for that. So we're very excited because we will officially light up Mecklenburg County as a certified work-ready community.
And the biggest part of the work-ready community is that there's a recruitment going into the schools, and they're certified and work-ready as they move forward. So we're very pleased about that.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right,
The
now-
second group that I would like to recognize tonight is Major Hoffman and her cadets. So if you all will come up front. Major Hoffman, along with Sergeant Pelletier, have done an outstanding job, as always, working with our students in the Air Force JROTC program. We're very excited that this year, the Virginia 951, their unit earned the Distinguished Unit Award in April by exceeding all expectations for cadets and their instructors with the support of both Parkview High School and Bluestone High School. The Distinguished Unit Award is earned by less than 10% of the 900 AF JROTC units worldwide. This is the 5th time that the Virginia 951, our Mecklenburg County Public Schools Air Force ROTC, has earned this Distinguished Unit Award. So Major Hoffman and to the cadets, we would like to thank you very much for your hard work and dedication, and we're very proud of you all.
Major Hoffman, before they leave, I'd like to invite the other students, all the award winners, to come up. We like at our meetings to have the board have a chance to recognize each one of them individually. Before we go on to our next awards for business, we'd like to have the board have a chance to do that. So if all the other students that have been recognized tonight would come up, we want to have the board recognize. Each year, the school boards throughout the state recognize business partners that have contributed significantly to the school divisions. You may remember in past years, we've recognized some of the civic organizations in the area. We've recognized businesses. Each year, we start with 3. This year, the ones that are being recognized are all represented here tonight. I want to ask them to come up individually, and I'm going to have Mr. Sturdivant recognize them for what they're doing. The first one, I'd like to ask Mr. Joe Young with WKSK Rewind 1019 to come up. You may have heard the morning Talk with the Dragons on Friday mornings that he has been doing for several years. He's working courageously to try to move towards having that same opportunity for the Barons in years to come. I think they've done a great service to us in getting that information out. We are so very thankful for the continued support that you're giving as we get the word out to our community about what's going on. So thank you, Mr. Young and WKSK. Second one that I would like to recognize, this is the first year that this organization has come. You've heard us talk about them before, but we have the GRASP organization that has been. I'd like the ladies of GRASP to come up. Ms. Deborah Wynn and our good Jenny Spain have been working with our schools. Ms. Spain has been with with Bluestone. Ms. Wynn has been with Parkview. We had the award ceremonies this morning. They did an outstanding job in getting some great scholarship opportunities available from many of our students. And we recognize them at that point, and we recognize them for next year. They have had incredible numbers of students that have completed the financial aid form for what's going on. We have a representative from Richmond that may want to introduce herself and say a few things.
Hi, my name is Paula Buckley, and I'm an advisor in one of the Richmond City schools, a couple schools in the Richmond area, and I'm also in the office there, the Director of Outreach and Public Affairs. GRASP is delighted to be in this area of the state for the first time this year, and I think the ladies here have really enjoyed the work that we do. We're passionate about helping students, which I should have said while they were still here, with the financial aid process for whatever they hope to pursue after high school. And, we just welcome anyone that wants to come and get assistance in that regard. And we thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, and this is for the state organization we appreciate because we continuously try to support our local folks. So thank you. If you will, come up as well, we want pictures. And then the third organization is VETS, and I'd like to ask Mr. and Mrs. Jim Moody to come up with VETS. They have been very, very much supportive of our students with scholarships. They've reached out to the community raising funds and many things that have been going on particularly in the area of music and support of our music. And we want to just tell them thank you very much by supporting VETS and what they do. They're a technology company, so we're trying to get more of our students trained to go to work with them in the future as well. So, and before they leave, another very special award that will be given out tonight, and they are part of this, but I want to ask all of our art and music teachers if they would come up and join us here, because through this year, in large part because of the generosity of VETS and the Moody's, we have had the Orchestra 2100 program for our first, second graders that we had to move to Henderson for, but the program was wonderful. And these ladies and gentlemen worked very hard with our students to put it on. I'll let any of you that would like to talk about how wonderful it was say a word or two, but we are so thankful. Yes, that would be you. Come up.
Good evening. We were met together last May to start working on an incredible opportunity for our students. And we worked all summer and throughout the school year, and it was a wonderful collaborative effort between music, art, and technology. So we really worked from the elementary level all the way up to the high school level. And we had our first and second graders went to the program, and they created artwork that we hung up in a gallery for them to see before the program, and they were displayed on projectors during while the orchestra was playing. And our first and second graders learned how to sing in Italian, and they were amazing. And then we had several of our students from Parkview High School and Bluestone High School. They sat with the orchestra and performed with them. So without people like you all, we would have never been able to bring that experience to Mecklenburg County. So thank you so much.
So the person who could not be with us tonight for this presentation is Maestro David Michael Wolf. He was instrumental in many ways, and we appreciate that so much. He sends his regrets that he could not join us. We're looking forward to doing it again next year, so hopefully we'll get that in. And I'm going to ask the teachers if they would give this to the Moody's on behalf of us for David, so that we can say our expression of thanks to him. Our pleasure. Thanks to you all. And if you would, we get pictures. I'll be happy, that would be most appropriate. Thanks to you all. Thank you. I understand.
Is Mr. Sturdivant a Marine, retired Marine?
He is.
I'm a retired Marine, Semper Fi, retired Marine myself. This is what I do now. Love it.
It's always good to see fellow Marines.
Hoorah.
Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen of the board, you know, we do know that we'll be having the other fishing team come up in June, but this is completing a year for us of many, many awards that I think is very indicative of all the things that our students are involved in and how well they do, and we just are so thankful as we come to the year for all the work that's being done. I will move on, with your permission, Mr. Sturdivant, to our report and information items. The first one we have is a report from our partners at the Higher Ed Center in South Boston with the Career Tech Academy, Mrs. Stephanie Robinson and Dr. Betty Adams.
Good evening.
Good
Mr.
evening.
Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, Superintendent Nichols, and members of the Mecklenburg County Public Schools School Board, thank you so much for allowing me this time to give you an update on the Career Tech Academy. My name is Betty Adams. I'm the Executive Director of the Southern Virginia Higher Education Center in South Boston. I'm here with our Career Tech Academy Administrator, Stephanie Robinson, to give you a brief update and preview for what's in store for next year. So we're closing in on our first year under the Career Tech Academy, and it has been a phenomenal success. We started with 32 students. We are finishing the year with 31. So we have a 97% retention rate the first year we have taken off. 63 industry-approved credentials have been earned by these students, and they have also earned 26 career studies certificates from Southside Virginia Community College. So it really is awesome. So I want to just take a second and remind you of what the Career Tech Academy is and why the center got involved in the CTA. First of all, it is a way for us to make available to our rural public youth opportunity to get training in high-demand technical careers for jobs, good-paying jobs, that are now open in our region. We know that not everybody needs to have a degree. Degrees are important. Degrees are very important. But for me, one of the most incredible things that I have experienced through this project is seeing young people who may not be academically gifted, but who are technically gifted. And they find out that they have these technical gifts, and the lights come on. And so it's very rewarding. We knew that our public schools did not have the resources to replicate the high-tech labs that we have at the Southern Virginia Higher Education Center. We have the technical training labs, we have the resources, we have the instructors. We also had capacity because our adult training programs occur in the afternoon or evening. So we had capacity during the day. And so at a time when we are losing population in our rural counties, this is a way, an opportunity to give our young people training that will allow them to stay in the region and have good jobs and raise their families and give them a reason to stay. So what is the Career Tech Academy? It is a collaboration between the center and 3 public school systems, Mecklenburg County, Halifax County, and Charlotte County, as well as 2 community colleges, Southside Virginia Community College and Danville Community College. Juniors and seniors from each of those 3 public school systems have been attending classes at the Higher Ed Center Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 10:30 every day, and they have a choice of 2 program tracks, information technology and mechatronics. Our instructors teach to the community college curriculum. That is the agreement that we have with Southside Virginia Community College. So this curricula have been embedded with the credentials that we provide in our adult training programs. So after a year, students have the opportunity to earn dual enrollment credits, industry-approved credentials. And when they graduate, they have 3 options. They can stay with us for an advanced degree or credential. They can transfer into a community college associate's degree program, and or they can go to work. So this has been a fantastic year. We're planning for year 2 now. We will be offering those same 2 program tracks, but what we're adding is that we have found the students that were with us last year want to come back and do something else. And so we have added a work-based learning component. So what we will be doing is we will be matching up students who have already completed one of those 2 tracks, want to come back for their second year, what we're calling level 2. We're going to provide additional soft skills training and project management training, but match them up with employers so they can get some hands-on training, work-based learning. So this would not have been possible without the school board okaying it, without Mr. Nichols helping us develop the program, and Mr. Cyphers as well. So it's been a great collaboration, and I want to thank you, and I look forward to sharing more after we have our second year. Thank you so much.
And I might add that Stephanie serves on our Virginia's for Learners team, and we are very appreciative of that. Thank you.
I just wanted to take time to thank you for everything, because one of your 11th graders that is in our mechatronics class now has his career study certificate in mechatronics from Southside. So you actually have an 11th grader that has not yet received his high school diploma that has a career study certificate. So this is amazing, the opportunity that you are giving the youth, the 11th and 12th graders coming in. I look forward to next year. Tomorrow we are having our completion ceremony, so I'm excited about giving them all of their certificates. And if you are available, please come to the center at 9 o'clock. Please join us. We will take pictures and we will, post that on social media. But thank you so much. This has been great. And Dr. Nichols and, Gary have been amazing to work with. They have made my job much easier, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving right along, I'm going to bring to your attention that we have talked about in work session, and we will be asking you to look at the June meeting, a recommendation that we will be bringing to you to count elementary conduct grades as part of honor roll. We are looking now at policies that have been in the past to see what's the best thing to bring forward, because there have been some questions about this. But we feel that at this time, when we're looking at the Virginia's for Learners requirements for discipline and attendance and things of that nature that even though it would be separate from grade for academics, it is important for the students to understand that this is a part of their job at school. So that will be something that we will be bringing to you next month, and we'll be getting you information about what we will ask about for that piece. I also want to bring to your attention, this is not a for action item, but it's just to be brought to your attention that there is a new opportunity that the state has moved to that would change VRS contributions to 10 pay periods rather than the 12 pay periods that we are currently using. As you know, we take the contracts, we break them up by 12, and we give that equal amount. Throughout the state, we are being asked to look at taking that VRS, so the retirement system contribution, and remove it during the 10 months that the teachers are working, which means that in the 2 months of the summer, their checks will be higher. But this is something coming from the state. Doesn't require board action, it's just an information item for you as well as for the teachers. We do have some recommendations, or the federal program applications for Title I, II, III, IV, and V that you have in your package, and I'm going to ask Ms. Rogers and Mr. Scales if they'll come and discuss that with you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, Mr. Nichols, board members. It's that time of year again. Earlier this month, the DOE released the federal applications. We are presenting them tonight for information, and they are for vote in June so that we can submit them by the July 1 deadline. You should have the Title I, Title II, Title III, Title IV, and Title V applications in your board docs for your review. If you have any questions as you're reviewing those, please do not hesitate to let us know. They are in draft status now and can be amended and changed before the June meeting if you see anything that you have questions about. Are there any questions at this time?
Ms. Bailey?
There was one of the applications, Ms. Rogers, that is it just blank right now in terms of monies allocated? It's all zeros and not a lot of.
Do you remember which one?
It's the
Yes,
Title
the Title
IV.
IV.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what, I contacted the DOE today, because right now, I didn't want to put in the number from last year. Well, again, I don't know what the number's going to be for this year. And Ms. Anderson, who was in charge of it at DOE, is supposed to get back to me as far as a ballpark, and that'll be filled in before the next meeting, and also give us ideas to where I can start making some plans for the use of Title IV. So that's where we are.
I didn't see any narration either, so.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Can't narrate what I don't have,
I
so
understand.
I was just waiting on them to get that information. Once I get it from Ms. Anderson, hopefully tomorrow, and I'll be able to start filling that in.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
That's a good question, though.
Thank you.
Ms. Rogers, you want to, thank you.
Good evening again. Tonight, I bring forward the draft of the local plan for the education of the gifted. The Gifted Advisory Committee has met multiple times this year. We've reviewed this plan. We also had technical assistance from another division who reviewed our plan. This is part of DOE's review process. So we had their comments and feedback, and we went through that and made some minor changes to our local plan. We did decide this year to only submit a 2-year plan instead of a 5-year plan because there are so many changes coming in Mecklenburg in the next couple of years with the new schools, and we know that those changes and those opportunities need to be reflected in this plan. So you will notice that it's just a 2019 to 21 plan. So that means in 2 years, someone will need to come back and review and update this to reflect all of the new changes and opportunities that are coming to our students. There are not really a lot of major changes in this plan. We did add to the screening process that our gifted teachers at the elementary level will work with kindergarten and first grade students in their enrichment time each week, or not each week, but multiple times throughout the year to try to work with those students and help the teachers in identifying potentially gifted students, especially those students from the underserved populations, as we are trying to better balance our numbers. And then we revised just the middle school part of the application or the plan to reflect the accelerated math program that we now have at the middle schools, where students going into 7th grade can take 7th and 8th grade math, and then Algebra 1 in the 8th grade. We added AP, and those are really the major changes that were put in the plan for this year. If you have any questions as you review it over the month, this is also for information tonight to be voted on next month.
Any questions? None? Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Scales, do you want to bring us up to date on the middle school language arts adoption?
Good evening once again. The textbook adoption process was started right immediately after the state English department approved the list of the books, and through the process of adoption within the county from the middle schools, from both middle schools and parents, the preferred book that we'd like to go forward with for adoption would be the Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, which is HMH. That'll be the reading book series that we would like to go forward with a hopefully with a 7-year contract with consumables.
Any questions? If not, thank you.
sir.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Jeffers, you would please come up and just remind the board about our policy.
Good evening, Chairman Sturtevant, Vice Chair Honeycutt, Superintendent Nichols, and School Board. Some time ago, we first mentioned that we were looking at making this change, that GCBC-R. It's a very small change. You see it in your packet. There's a strike-through where, and no longer would the pay bonus or the pay stipend go into effect at the beginning of July. It would go into effect the following pay period after the teacher provides verification of earning their master's or doctorate degrees. So we've had a few teachers that may earn their degree in October, November. When they have proofs, that all this is going to do is let them begin to receive a prorate stipend for that new higher degree earned. So it's a straightforward change. This will be the information. We hope to, any questions about it, but we come back in June for a vote.
This is one of the items that was brought up.
Yes, in February, I think, probably it's been a conversation. We brought it as a conversation, but it's the first time it's formally been before you as a policy revision.
Okay, that's going to be action for tonight as well. Any questions, board members? If not, it's long overdue. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Mayhew, you have a request from Clarksville, I believe.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members, Superintendent Nichols. Each year, Clarksville Chamber of Commerce asks for us to provide 2 buses for their shuttle service, one regular ed bus and one special ed bus, so they can transport visitors from the parking lot at Lake Country Business Park to 8th Street. The hours for the buses this year will be 8 a.m. until 6:15 on Saturday, July the 20th. The Chamber of Commerce has agreed to compensate the bus drivers and provide insurance coverages for the buses and the passengers. This is for information tonight and for action next month, if you will.
Great. Any questions? If not, thank you, Ms. Mayhew.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Dalton, you want to give us an update on some surplus items?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, Board, Mr. Nichols. Tonight, we've got a small request that, well, first of all, I'm happy to say La Crosse Elementary School will be receiving all new cafeteria tables in July. So we have anywhere from 20 to 25 that we would like requests to be surplus tonight. That is also an action item.
Any questions, board? It's good news.
And
Thank you.
textbooks? Mr. Dalton, you want to comment on the surplus textbooks at all? Or just we have well, it's just a...
I'm not aware of the surplus textbooks.
That's Paula Giammatteo. Ms. Paula?
With the new adoptions, we have to get rid of the old books, and we have to bring them before the board for surplus. And so this is a list, and we would hopefully like to get rid of all the old books at the high schools and middle schools prior to them moving to the new building. So you'll be seeing this a lot.
Any questions, board? If not, thank you. Mr. Nichols?
All right, item K is one that we're looking forward to, the opportunity to have a partnership with the local police departments, probably with a DARE or another program. This is an opportunity that has come along that we feel will be very beneficial for us as we try to fight drugs and things in there. And so it's another one that even though we like to have a month, I think we can set it up for a special meeting and have a vote on that. And that goes along with item L. As you know, we've been waiting on the Board of Supervisors to take action on the budget that has been sent over to them. I met with the various budget committees that they've had and was with them as they had the public hearing. The information that I'm getting from the board is that they are willing and eager to work with us on giving the teacher and staff salary increase as we asked for it, for 3% plus fixing the various scales. So they will be voting on that, having had the public meeting last Wednesday night. They can vote on that on the 22nd, which is this coming Wednesday night. I'm going to be asking you if you would come back for a special meeting at 5 p.m. on Thursday, the 23rd, so that we can accept what they brought to us, and we will have other items like the surplus, the drug partnership that we just spoke of, to bring to your attention at that time as well. It should be a short meeting, mainly to take care of those details. We strike through item M as we voted on the agenda, so that's no longer there.
No, I think, Mr. Nichols, we were going to, for action is strike, but for information it's still there.
Okay, well, we are working continuously on the mascot survey results, and there have been surveys that have been done, completed. We had the last of the surveys that we said would be available till last evening. But I think that we're finding that there's still a lot of desire for us to look even further into what might be available. And so we will not be, we'll be doing more work on the mascot piece.
Okay, thank you.
And then as far as superintendent's comments, I just want to bring to your attention that our art students this year at both Parkview and Bluestone High School will be having a special art presentation at McCullum Moore Gardens for a month that's already started, but there'll be a special presentation of that display next Sunday, not this Sunday after graduation, but the following week, and you would all be invited to participate in that. And that's a full agenda, but I thank you for the time tonight.
Thank you. We're going to move on to committee reports. Joint Education Capital Improvement Committee.
The Joint Education Committee has had a couple of meetings. One of the meetings is, well, both of the meetings are about hiring a construction management firm to help represent this school board, because this is such a large expenditure for the public. And so we've settled on a company, and a contract has been negotiated. We will be voting on that at our next meeting. That's really the only thing. The only other thing we have is the property is under a Phase 1 review right now, which should be completed in July. So after that, hopefully, if everything goes right, we'll be able to start to put this out for bid, I think, if that's the dates. And that's right on schedule for what the architects had proposed. So keep your fingers crossed that all these things go right and we can paint some shovels gold and dig some dirt.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Finance Committee.
Finance Committee met this afternoon at 5 o'clock. We went over the payment of the bills. Everything was in order, so we will be making a motion tonight. We also have an RFP that we'll be voting on later tonight, and the Finance Committee will recommend. Thank you.
Thank you. School Safety Committee.
No.
Gifted and Talent Special Education Committee.
We don't have any report.
Thank you, Mr. Ritchie. CT Career and Technical Education Committee.
Tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Ritchie. Athletics Committee.
We are working on getting together here in the next month or so, the athletic committee, to consider some possible new sports to start as club activities first, in preparation for when we come together as one school, having an expansion of some of the sports programs. So if anybody has any ideas or suggestions for those, let me know, and we'll be discussing that hopefully in the next month or so.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Ritchie. Instruction Committee.
That's not me.
Instruction Committee. Okay, nothing to report. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone for public input?
We have no public input.
All right. Public hearing on the comprehensive plan. Anyone?
No input.
Moving on to action. Get a motion that the school board approves the minutes of the special meeting held April 8th, 2018.
So moved. Second.
Motion, Mr. Honeycutt, second from Mr. Edwards. Any discussion? If not, roll call.
Mr. Ritchie?
Abstain?
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer? Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes.
Mrs. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Abstain.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Sturtevant?
Yes. Get a motion that the school board approves the minutes for the regular school board meeting held on April 22nd, 2018.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Edwards, second from Mr. Palmer. Any discussion? If none, roll call.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer? Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes.
Mrs. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Sturtevant?
Yes. Moving on to payment of the bills. We have a recommendation.
It is a motion of the Finance Committee to pay the bills.
We have the recommendation of the Finance Committee to pay the bills, that the school board approves the payment of the bills. Roll call.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes.
Mrs. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Sturtevant?
Yes. Moving on to personnel, that the school board approves the personnel recommendations.
So moved.
We have a motion, Mr. Honeycutt,
Second.
second from Ms. Garner. Any discussion? If none, roll call.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes.
Mrs. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Sturtevant?
Yes. Next item is personnel item number 2, that the school board approves the additional personnel recommendations.
So moved.
We have a motion, Mr. Honeycutt. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Mr. Ritchie. Any discussion? If none, roll call.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes.
Mrs. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Sturtevant?
Yes, the motion is approved. Mr. Nichols,
Yes.
this is the second personnel motion.
Yes, sir.
Okay, do you want to make the announcement now, or you want to make it later?
The announcement, I'll make the announcement later.
Okay, thank you. Item F,
This evening? Yes. I'll do
Yes.
this. Okay.
that the school board approves the offering the VRS long-term care insurance to division employees. You have a motion? So moved. Motion, Mr. Honeycutt. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Garner. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes.
Mrs. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Sturtevant?
Yes. Continuing on, VSBA policy updates, that the school board approves the updates to the VSBA policy. We have a motion?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion from Ms. Bailey, second from Mr. Honeycutt. Any discussion? Ms. Garner. We have a motion from Ms. Garner, second from Mr. Honeycutt. Any discussion? No discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yeah.
Mr., I'm sorry?
I think the second was the second from Mr. Honeycutt or from
I gave the second to Mr. Honeycutt, motion from Ms. Bailey.
Ms. Garner?
Ms. Garner. Roll call. I don't know why I keep getting that confused.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer? Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes.
Mrs. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Sturtevant?
Yes. Get a motion that the school board approves the revision to the VSBA policy, GCBC-R, teacher compensation.
So moved.
We have a motion for Mr. Edwards. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second from Ms. Garner. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes.
Mrs. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Sturtevant?
Yes. Salvation Army bus request. Get a motion that the school would approve Salvation Army bus request.
So moved.
We have a motion from Mr. Edwards, second from Mr. Palmer. Any discussion? If not, roll call.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes.
Mrs. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Sturtevant?
Yes. Grounds and lawn maintenance. Get a motion that the school board approves RFB 2020-001, ground and lawn maintenance, and the contract be awarded to,
The Finance Committee discussed this in Finance meeting. We recommend the award goes to Green Acres Lawn Care.
The motion that the award goes to Green Acres Lawn Care. Do we have a motion? So moved. Motion from Mr. Honeycutt. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Garner. Any discussion? No discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes.
Mrs. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Sturtevant?
Yes. Get a motion, the school board deem all existing cafeteria tables at La Crosse Elementary as surplus. We have a motion?
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Palmer. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Garner. Any discussion? If none, roll call.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes.
Mrs. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Sturtevant?
Yes. Textbook surplus. Get a motion, the school board deem the listed textbooks as surplus. Do we have a motion? So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Honeycutt, second from Mr. Edwards. Any discussion? If none, roll call.
Mr. Ritchie?
Yes.
Mrs. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Mr. Honeycutt?
Yes.
Mrs. Garner?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Sturtevant?
Yes. Under announcements, reminders, last day of school, May 22nd. Graduation, Bluestone High School, 9 a.m. on the 25th. Parkview High School, 11 a.m. on the 25th. Memorial Day holiday on the 27th. May 29th, teach professional development at Parkview High School from 8 to 3 p.m. On June 17th, regular school board meeting. And I believe we're going to have another one before then as well.
Yes, we will be having a special meeting Thursday night at 5 o'clock. I'd also like to bring to the board's attention that there is an item that will need to be voted on at that time that was brought to the attention of the Finance Committee related to an increase in the fees for food, lunches, school lunches by 10 cents. Right.
2:15? Okay,
That was-
that'll be
that
brought
was
for
dis-
action.
That was, at that time, yes, that was discussed in the Finance Committee.
Because as Mrs. Moore, I believe you said you need to get those appropriations, everything in before the end of this month. Yes, sir. Okay.
Thank you. We're now at the board member remarks. We're going to start to our left. Ms. Bailey.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Chairman, on April 30th, Mr. Nichols and I attended a Build Virginia regional meeting in South Boston at the Southern Virginia Higher Ed Center. A representative from the governor's office was there talking about how to network and prepare our students to be more workforce ready. We did make some significant connections that day with folks who can help our students plug into that workforce availability pool once they have earned their degrees and other certifications. So that was fun to go to. We also completed our board training last Wednesday. I sent out an email to all the board members with that PowerPoint presentation as well as the audio recording. When you complete that, please let Paula know so that she can send your name in to the board for credit for that presentation on improving board superintendent relationships. And also, I'd like to thank the Moose Lodge of South Hill. The Moose Lodge made a $4,000 donation to our schools to help offset school lunch debt. And those monies were split up. That was in your board packet for bills to be paid. Those monies were split up between 3 of our schools to offset some of that. And I do appreciate that significant donation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Bailey. Mr. Palmer.
Yes, sir. I would like to say how well the programs were held today. I went to Parkview High School and Chase City Elementary, and they had their awards assembly today, and it went over well, and I was very pleased to have been there.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. Mr. Edwards.
I don't care how old you get, if you ever want to have some fun, go to the graduation ceremony at an elementary school for kindergartners. I was there today, buddy, it'll make you feel like a young man again watching these babies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Ms. Garner.
As Mr. Tom said, I also went to Parkview and Chase City Elementary, but in the last 2 weeks, I don't know how people in central office, I know Dr. Scales, I think, made 4 today. You have to be.
He said 5.
5. I know he's been from place to place today. And you almost have to be 5 people to attend everything that's going on, because everything's happening at one time. Also, I had a meeting with Governor School. For next year, the projected enrollment is 188 students, which is 12 more than they had this year. I have the audit, which we passed, and also a copy of the pay scale. They're getting the 5% basically like the regular employees, and a draft of the calendar. And I know that that's been one subject that's been brought up here, is trying to get the school systems on their Easter break, because this year, I think, SBCC was breaking, and then we had another break, so our kids never really had an Easter break. So next year, we're going to start working in September to get aligned with the schools in Region 8.
Thank you, Ms. Garner. Mr. Ritchie.
I have no comments.
Mr. Johnson.
I've got a couple of things. First of all, I'd like to say that I was excited to see all of the activities that was going on here tonight, from scrapping to the kids fishing. I just happened to be in A+ a couple weeks ago when the fishing team, the young kids come in to get that morning biscuit or whatever before they took off to go fishing. And those young boys half sleeping and rubbing their eyes and everything, but they were excited and ready to go. And I talked to several of the young men. I mean, they was all gung-ho. They were ready to go fishing. And I thought, why couldn't they have had something like that when I was in high school? I would certainly been on it, but they didn't have all that when I was there. But it's a good thing. When it first came about, I was a little hesitant. I said, this is not going to go nowhere. But it went. These kids are disciplined, and boy, they was listening to the ones that they were with. I was highly impressed. And Scrappy, I can't say enough about that. How these kids, it's no telling where they're going to go. To put all those electric components and things together, and it just amazed me. These kids are going to go somewhere. And I'm proud of just to be in Mecklenburg County and to be a part of this school system. And then in closing, I'd like to thank Mr. Mayhew. He had a bus accident this past week over next to my house, and I come up on it. I was out patrolling, and I come up on it, and I looked, and he was there, and Donna Connor was there, and it just made me proud the way they handled the situation, the way they took care of it, kept things calm. Nothing that was hesitant. They was just taking care of it. And it made me proud that we have these kind of people working for the school system here in Mecklenburg County. And last, everybody have a happy summer and a good, safe summer, and enjoy your time off.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Nichols, did you have anything else?
I'll echo what has been mentioned here tonight. The various programs that the students have been participating in, the awards that they've won. We've had a great year in Mecklenburg County Schools, and we're very, very thankful for it. And I was at the award ceremonies at both Parkview and Bluestone today. There were tens of thousands of dollars given, and I want to thank the community for the support that they're giving, what it means to the community. I was particularly pleased to see that there's much more attention being given to not just college and scholarships for college, but support for students that are going into the trades, going into the businesses, and being supported by the community for those opportunities. So it's an echoing that we are making good progress in our plan to get these students career and college ready. So thanks to everybody that's been a significant part of that, and the board.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. And your recommendation, will you do that later after the meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Vice Chairman, Mr. Honeycutt.
Yes, I just want to say a special thanks to all of the administrators this year, our faculty and staff who have done such a great job in making sure that Mecklenburg County is a beam of light, and I am proud to be part of a school system that is doing great things. And it just reiterated that here tonight when I saw Scrappy here, when I saw the fishing team here. all of the endless possibilities that we're looking at being able to do with our new school systems. And again, I just want to thank you. Thank you to my fellow board members. We've done a lot this year. It's been a lot of great things that have happened, and I just will pray that that continues moving forward into our new school year. Again, we're 2 years away from being in a new school building. But one special person, I want to say a special thank you again tonight, and I thanked her earlier in the Finance Committee, but I want to thank her publicly now as well for her hard work, because this is something that I have fought for the last 4 years, and that's with our school activity fund account. And I know that those monies are going to be used up every year on our students, and we're no longer going to hold that money, that our students are going to be given every opportunity at every level to do the same thing. So Mrs. Peffer, thank you for your job on this, and well done.
Thank you, Mr. Honeycutt. To our administrators and instructional staff, on behalf of the school board, I just want to thank you for what you've done this year and what you continue to do. We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
In a second? Motion adjourned. Meeting adjourned.